She raised her glass at our dinner and said, "I've cheated for 2 years. I'm finished with you." What if the person you trusted most was secretly dismantling your life piece by piece while you planned a romantic anniversary dinner? Picture this. Michael, a man who thought he had it all, a loving wife, a dream home, a future carved in promises, stands on the edge of a revelation that will torch everything he knows. At Chez Pierre, the upscale French restaurant bathed in golden light, he's dressed in a charcoal suit, heart racing with anticipation for their 9th year together. But Samantha, his wife, isn't there to celebrate. Her blue dress clings to secrets, and her wineglass holds more than Cabernet. It's brimming with betrayal. As the candles flicker, a chilling question hangs in the air. What happens when the woman you love confesses she's been cheating for 2 years, right over the shrimp cocktail? Will Michael crumble, or is he hiding a plan so cunning it could rewrite their story? The restaurant door creaks open, and a man steps in, clutching a manila folder that could unravel it all. Buckle up, because this anniversary isn't about love. It's about a storm of truth ready to strike. I never thought the woman I shared my soul with would nuke our marriage over shrimp cocktail. It was our 9th anniversary. I reserved a table at Chez Pierre, the upscale French place she'd been hinting at for weeks. I wore the charcoal suit she once said made me look like a senator. She wore blue, not just any blue. That blue, the one she always saved for special nights. But I wasn't the one getting the special tonight. Not anymore. She looked across the candlelit table, swirled her wine, and smiled like a queen ready to deliver her final decree. "Michael," she said, soft and venomous. "I've been cheating on you for 2 years and I'm leaving you." My heart should have cracked. My hand should have trembled, but I didn't blink. Not once. Instead, I smiled. I raised my glass and calmly toasted to your new life, Samantha. That's when her face froze. The blue lips parted, but no sound came out because right then, perfectly on cue, the restaurant door opened and he walked in. No, not her lover. That coward wouldn't dare show his face here. It was Richard, her boss. The same man she once said gave her the creeps. The same man she claimed to avoid at work parties. The same man whose name I found scribbled in a journal, stars doodled around it like a teenager with no shame. But Richard wasn't walking in alone. He had a manila folder in one hand and my lawyer in the other. Samantha's face drained of colour faster than the waiter could refill her Cabernet. She looked at Richard, then me, then Richard again. "What is this?" "Oh," I said, cool as the wine in my glass. "Just a little celebration of my own. You see, sweetheart, I might have known about your little extracurriculars for about 11 months. Her jaw hung open, her fork still hovering mid-air. "Let me guess," I said, leaning in. "You thought you were slick. All those girls' nights. The yoga sessions where you came back glowing like you just ran a marathon with your hips. The wellness retreats that smelled like aftershave." She clenched her fist. "You went through my stuff?" "Nope." I watched. I listened. I waited. And I learned that if you let a liar run long enough, they'll eventually hang themselves with their own tongue. She laughed. But it was that dry, empty laugh liars use when they're cornered. "You're pathetic," she hissed, her mask finally slipping. "You couldn't satisfy a cactus in the desert." I faked it more times than I can count. "You think sitting here all smug makes you a man." I didn't flinch. "Samantha," I said, "you don't get to define what a man is when you've spent 2 years sneaking out like a thief. You didn't just break vows, you vaporized them." She slammed her wineglass down, shards splintering across the white tablecloth. People turned to stare. She didn't care. She was unraveling. It was beautiful. Richard cleared his throat and dropped the folder on the table. "You'll want to read that?" he muttered. Samantha grabbed it, flipped through the papers, and went white. Her lip curled like she'd tasted poison. This is fake." "No," I said. That's your company email with every message, every picture. Every time you left early and charged the company for hours you spent horizontal with. What's his name again? Oh, yeah, Chris, the personal trainer. She looked like she'd been slapped. I kept going. I also added screenshots from our shared cloud account. You forgot to turn off syncing. All those mirror selfies, the hotel receipts, the messages where you said I was boring and too loyal to alcohol. I have it all. Silence. Samantha was shaking, but not from regret, from rage. She didn't look like someone caught red-handed. She looked like someone offended she was being held accountable. You ambushed me, she spat. No, I replied. You detonated this marriage. I just made sure the blast hit the right target. She stood, knocking over the chair. You think you're winning? You think this little stunt means anything? I'll take half. I'll ruin you in court. Richard smiled for the first time all evening. That's the best part, I said. You signed a prenup. Remember, you were too in love to read it back then. Or maybe just too busy texting your ex during our honeymoon. And then, just for fun, I added, by the way, Chris, he's married. His wife says hi. Samantha stormed out, slamming the restaurant door behind her so hard it rattled the chandeliers. I sat alone at the table, took a slow sip of my wine, and exhaled. The performance was over, but the real story had just begun. The second she stormed, out of that restaurant, heels clacking like gunshots on hardwood, everything felt quiet. Not peaceful, not yet, just quiet. Like the air right after a storm rips through town, and you're left standing in what's left of your life. I sat there for a minute, breathing, letting the sting of the moment wash over me. Richard slid into the seat Samantha had vacated, his usual corporate poker face gone. He gave me a nod. That went smoother than I expected. I half laughed. You've clearly never been married to Samantha. He tilted the manila folder back toward me. Everything in there will hold up in court. You've got her cornered. I didn't answer. I was watching the red wine run down the side of her broken glass, slow like blood. That wasn't just a confrontation. It was a funeral, the death of trust of us. And in a way, it felt like a part of me died with her lies. The days that followed were strange, like waking up in someone else's house, only it was mine. She didn't come back. Not that night, not the next. Her closet remained untouched for 3 days before she finally sent a moving company for her things. No note, no apology, just movers in grey shirts carrying her life out of mine. I watched from the stairs, arms folded. They nodded respectfully. One guy asked, "You want us to pack her skincare?" I said, "Only if you're getting hazard pay." They laughed. I didn't. Then came the evidence. My phone buzzed at 2:01 a.m. An unknown number. "Hey, this is Emily. I'm Chris's wife. I got your number from the cloud backups. I think we should talk." I sat up in bed, heart racing. We met at a quiet coffee shop in the suburbs. She was calm. Too calm. "I've known for a few weeks," she said, stirring her tea. "Chris has been distant. One night, I checked his messages. Found stuff with your wife I cannot see." I swallowed hard. I've seen a lot too. She reached into her purse and slid me a flash drive. Everything. Screenshots, voice notes, hotel bookings under fake names. There's even a video where they're in a hotel jacuzzi and your wife's complaining that you cry during movies like a teenage girl. I smiled bitterly. She always said that was her favorite thing about me. Emily didn't flinch. They're not worth our pain. There was something terrifyingly composed about her, like a woman who'd been burned and now only saw ashes. She stood, fixed her coat, and said one last thing before leaving. She told Chris she was using you, said you were convenient, that you'd never leave, that you were too soft. She paused at the door. "I don't think you're soft, Michael. I think you're dangerous now." That night, I sat on the floor of my living room with her flash drive plugged into my laptop. I watched, I listened, I read, I let it all hit me. Her voice, her giggles, her lies, the way she twisted the truth like she was born for it. She said I was clingy, that I begged for her attention. She told him I wasn't ambitious enough, that I didn't excite her anymore. Excite her? You mean because I didn't bang her like a hormonal teenager in hotel bathrooms every Tuesday? Because I worked late to pay for her designer sunglasses while she played house with a man who wore tank tops to brunch? I closed the laptop enough. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was awake. And if Samantha thought she'd shattered me, she had no idea what I was about to become. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing how many people knew. When someone cheats for 2 years, it's not a secret, it's a network. And once that veil's lifted, it's like seeing the cracks in a dam that was always ready to burst. My phone became a confession booth. Her co-workers, neighbors, even her cousin Lisa. Suddenly, everyone had a story. Hey man, I didn't want to get involved. One guy messaged me on Facebook, but I saw your wife at that rooftop bar with some dude last summer. They weren't exactly subtle. Thanks, Tom. Real helpful now. But nothing stung like hearing from her best friend, Rachel. They used to laugh at my jokes together. She came to our wedding. She even cried during Samantha's vows. She called me one night, her voice shaking. Michael, I'm so sorry. I kept quiet too long. I waited. She told me things. Said she was bored, that you were too nice. Said being with you felt like being married to a houseplant. I didn't say anything. I let the silence do the bleeding. Rachel sighed. She's changed. Michael, she used, to talk about you like you were her dream. But lately, it's like she wanted to destroy you just to feel alive. Destroy me. That was the word that echoed. I started seeing our old life differently. The kitchen she decorated in slate grey. That was where she FaceTimed him while I was in meetings. The bed I built with my bare hands. That's where she probably rehearsed her excuses while lying beside me. I remembered one night a few months ago. She came home at midnight, hair wet, eyes bright, claiming her friend Sarah had the worst breakup ever, and she stayed to console her. She even cried. I made her tea. I rubbed her back. She was probably washing off another man's aftershave. How do you process that kind of darkness when it was wrapped in silk and lip gloss? One morning, I got an email. No subject, just a video. I hesitated, but clicked. Samantha in our guest room on a video call wearing the robe I bought her for Christmas. She was talking to Chris, laughing. You should have seen his face today. She giggled. I told him I was going to therapy. He actually offered to drive me. Therapy, babe. Like I need a shrink. All I need is you. Then she whispered something that made my skin crawl. I'm going to bleed and dry. Get what I can. Then maybe we'll run. I closed the video. I didn't need to hear more. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was plotting against me. That night, I sat alone with a bourbon and a yellow legal pad. I started listing names, dates, patterns. I drew a map of deceit, a twisted little ecosystem of lies and dirty motel sheets. But I wasn't doing it to torture myself anymore. I was building something, a strategy. She thought I'd crumble. She thought my kindness was weakness. What she didn't know was that the moment I felt the last threat of love snap, something inside me changed. Not rage, not revenge, clarity. She was never the woman I thought she was. She wasn't a partner. She was a parasite. And parasites can't survive when you cut off the host. The next day, I called my lawyer. David, I said, let's turn up the heat. I want the house, the car, everything I can keep. Let her fight for scraps. He chuckled. You sure you want to play hardball? She picked the game, I said coldly. I'm just making sure she doesn't forget who she played it with. I hung up and looked around. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt ready because, for the first time in months, I wasn't reacting. I was moving. And Samantha, she had no idea the storm was heading straight for her. They say revenge is best served cold. But I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for balance. For every lie she whispered into Chris's ears, I was going to drop a truth bomb into her perfectly curated world. Samantha didn't know that while she was busy screwing around with her gym rat toy boy, I'd started rewiring the legal structure of everything we shared. Our bank accounts, the title on the sedan, even the deed to the cabin her parents left us as a wedding gift. That gift had been transferred into a trust under my name 3 weeks before our anniversary. Why? Because when you spend 11 months quietly watching someone destroy you, you start preparing for the day you no longer need to. I got the next surprise when I was walking out of my office building. A sleek black car pulled up fast. The window rolled down. Michael, it was Chris. The man had the nerve to show up like this was high school drama. "Got a minute?" he asked. I looked around. There were people outside. Cameras. Too many eyes. I opened the passenger door and got in. He wore a smirk. The kind of smirk you only see on men who've never faced consequences. "Look," he said, "Samantha's losing it. Says, you're trying to destroy her life." I raised an eyebrow. "I haven't even started." He snorted, then leaned closer. "She's saying wild stuff, man. That you're abusive, that you stalked her, that she's scared for her safety." I turned to him slowly. "You believe that?" He hesitated, just for a second. "That's all I needed." "You're scared now?" I said quietly. "You got into bed with a hurricane, and now you're realizing she doesn't just burn bridges. She pours gasoline first." His smirk vanished. I continued. "She's playing. You just like she played me. You're the shiny new toy." But eventually Samantha gets bored. And when she does, she turns. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "I'm not warning you for your sake. I don't care if she ruins your life. I'm just letting you know. Stay out of my way." I stepped out of the car, shut the door, and never looked back. That night, I checked my email again. My lawyer had sent over a revised proposal, Titan clauses, ironclad evidence, and a subtle warning. "She's going to come at you hard. Be ready." I was, but I didn't expect her to show up at my door. It was nearly midnight. She banged like a cop with a warrant. I opened it slowly, arms crossed. There she stood. Samantha, no makeup, hair a mess, eyes wild. "You ruined me," she screamed. "No," I said. "You did that all on your own." She pushed past me like she still lived here, stormed into the kitchen and spun around like some drama queen on a streaming show. "You think you're so clever? You think I won't fight back?" I stayed calm. I'd learned by now nothing rattled her more than not reacting. "You made your choices," I said. "Now live with them." She stepped closer, voice trembling. "I gave you years, Michael. I built this life with you." "No," I replied. "You decorated it, then trashed it behind my back." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You were always soft. That's why I had to find someone else." I walked to the door and held it open. "Then go back to him. And while you're at it, tell him the mortgage company's calling. You stopped paying that secret condo rent 6 months ago, remember?" Her face fell. "Yeah, I knew about the other apartment, the backup plan. I always knew." She didn't say a word as she walked out. This time, the door slammed behind her and it didn't hurt. Not anymore. That was the night I stopped being the victim. Samantha had thrown grenades into our life, expecting me to roll over in the rubble. Instead, I was building a fortress, one brick of truth at a time. By the end of that week, I wasn't just walking through the ruins. I was redesigning the whole damn skyline. Samantha thought chaos would buy her freedom. She didn't realize it just gave me space to breathe. I changed the locks, froze the joint account, transferred the remaining utilities to her name without a warning. And the best part, the credit card she'd been using for all those girls' nights and spa getaways, I cancelled it in the middle of her shopping trip at some high-end boutique. I know because the store manager called me. Apparently, she made a scene. "I'm Samantha Thompson. Do you know who I am?" "Lady, you're a walking cautionary tale. 2 days later, I got served." "Yep." She filed for spousal support. She claimed she had sacrificed her career to support me. that she contributed emotionally and intellectually to my business, that she was entitled to ongoing financial compensation. She wanted $4,700 a month. I laughed so hard I dropped my coffee. And then I called David, my lawyer. "She's trying to rob me with a straight face," I said. He chuckled. "We were expecting this." "Don't worry, you've got her dead to rights." I wasn't worried. See, Samantha didn't know that my accountant had been documenting everything for the past 6 months. All the expenses she charged to the business, the weekend retreats that were magically scheduled during her sick days, the fake charity donations to shell companies that trace back to her lover's gym. We had receipts, literal and digital, and we were about to bury her in them. I didn't even have to wait long. Samantha's lawyer reached out for a private mediation, which was code for "we're screwed. Let's bargain before this hits a judge." I agreed to meet, not because I was afraid, because I wanted to look her in the eyes one last time as her world collapsed around her. The meeting was in a sleek glass office downtown. Samantha walked in wearing her usual performance armor. Tight, black dress, high heels, and that smug expression that used to convince people she was in control, but her eyes told the truth. They were tired, cornered. She sat down, crossed her legs, and gave you that forced smile. "Let's not make this uglier than it needs to be," she said. I leaned forward. "You already made it grotesque." Her lawyer cleared his throat and passed me a folder. "We'd like to propose a revised settlement. Samantha is willing to forgo alimony in exchange for the cabin and a portion of the joint investments." I didn't even open the folder. I looked directly at Samantha. "You get nothing." Her jaw tightened. I continued. "You lied. You cheated. You spent 2 years using me like a free ride and a therapist. You don't get to walk away with prizes. I gave you the best years of my life," she snapped. "And I gave you stability, loyalty, and a home," I replied. "You torched it all because your ego needed to feel wanted by someone who probably can't spell commitment." She looked like she was about to scream, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned in. "Fine," she hissed. "But don't come crawling back when the next girl breaks you." I smiled. "I won't crawl. I walk forward. You should try it sometime." We didn't shake hands. We didn't hug. She left with her head held high, but her shoulders sagging under the weight of everything she'd lost. And I went home, poured myself a drink, stared out at the backyard where we used to host barbecues. It didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It felt like a blank canvas. The storm had passed, but I wasn't just healing. I was evolving. It's strange. The things that haunt you. Not the lies, not the betrayal, but the quiet moments you didn't know were fake. Like the time she brought me soup when I had the flu. The way she kissed my forehead and said, "I'll always take care of you." I remember believing her. That was the part that still echoed believing her. But belief doesn't mean truth. And love without loyalty is just emotional warfare with good lighting. The cabin felt different now. I drove up alone for the first time since the divorce papers were finalized. My name was on the deed. No longer ours. No longer forever. Just mine. The place was still the way it gets after a storm has swept through, but hasn't quite been cleaned up yet. I opened the windows and let the cold air rush through like I was exorcising the ghosts of conversations past. This place had once been our escape. Now it was mine. I lit a fire, sat on the old leather chair by the window, and opened a bottle of bourbon I've been saving. Not for a celebration, just for a moment like this. When you finally admit it happened, and you're still standing. Halfway through my second glass, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I don't know why I answered. Michael. Her voice. Samantha, of course. I didn't say anything. She exhaled as if she was already annoyed I hadn't immediately given her the floor. I didn't call the fight. Still, I didn't speak. I heard you've been up at the cabin, she said. I frowned. Are you checking on me now? No, she snapped, then softened it immediately. I remembered our last trip up there. You made that awful chili and we laughed for hours. That trip was a lie. She had snuck out at 2 a.m. to take a walk. I know now she called Chris from the porch, told him she wished she was with him. Instead, I said nothing. She continued, I miss talking to you. That hit different. Not because I believed her, but because I realized I didn't miss her at all. You don't miss me. I finally said, you miss what I gave you, a mirror to pretend you were someone worth trusting. Silence. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. You used to be kind. I laughed once, sharp, bitter. No, I used to be blind. There's a difference. She stayed on the line, quiet. Then her voice trembled. Chris left me. Of course he did. He got what he wanted, and now he was on to the next fantasy. That's how people like him and her operated. They chased validation, not connection. High eyes, not history. He said I was too messy, she added. I didn't say you always were. I didn't say karma's but not half as cruel as you. I just said, don't call me again, Samantha. And I hung up. That night, I slept like I hadn't in years. No lies breathing beside me. No guilt lodged in my chest. Just silence and firelight. The next morning, I went down to the porch with a coffee in one hand and the divorce file in the other. I sat at the edge, toes brushing the cold wood, and read through the papers one last time. And then I tore them. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I wanted to close the chapter completely. Let the wind carry the scraps. Let the forest drink what was left. I didn't need reminders anymore. I didn't need to prove I'd survived her. I had. The phone hasn't rung since. Not from her. Not from anyone tied to the wreckage. And that's exactly how I want it. Because when someone tries to burn your life down, the best revenge isn't a firestorm. It's rebuilding something they'll never be invited into again. Grief is a strange creature. It doesn't knock. It doesn't call ahead. It just shows up uninvited. Sometimes in the middle of a grocery aisle, or when you hear a song you both used to hum in the car. But after everything, what surprised me most wasn't how much I grieved the loss of her. It was how much I missed me, the version of me that believed in people, that poured love without measuring how much was left for myself, that gave and didn't realize he was being drained dry by someone who smiled while twisting the knife. I wanted him back. After the cabin weekend, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay in the ashes. I joined a gym, not because of revenge, not because I wanted her to see me doing better, but because I needed to reconnect with something mine, control, power, strength. The first few days were brutal. Not just physically, but mentally. I kept hearing Samantha's voice in my head. You're not a real man. You're just safe. Funny how safe had become an insult, like decency was a flaw, but I pushed harder. Every drop of sweat was a conversation I didn't need to have. Every sore muscle was proof I wasn't done. A month later, I looked in the mirror and didn't just see a stronger body. I saw someone who'd finally stopped apologizing for being human. People started noticing not just the weight loss or the sharper jawline, but the way I carried myself. Even at work, where I'd once let Samantha's drama bleed into my mood, I was sharper, focused. Clients complimented my energy. My business partner, Stephen, pulled me aside one afternoon. Man, I don't know what the hell happened, but you're locked in. I just smiled. Let's just say I cleared some dead weight. He raised his brow but didn't press. He didn't need to. Everyone had heard whispers. Samantha was a wildfire and her drama had a way of spreading without gasoline. One afternoon, I bumped into Rachel, Samantha's ex-best friend, at a bookstore of all places. She looked surprised to see me. You look good, she said. Awkward but sincere. You look like someone who finally unfollowed the drama. I replied with a smirk. She laughed, and something about her demeanor had changed. Softer. Less tense. We talked for a while about books, life, how Samantha had burned every bridge she ever crossed, even with people who once swore loyalty. She said I was jealous of her, Rachel admitted, shaking her head. Because I didn't have a man who'd worship me. I nodded slowly. She mistook worship for love. That's the tragedy. Rachel looked at me for a long moment. You ever think about dating? Again? I didn't answer right away. I looked out the bookstore window, watching the people walk by. I think about living again, I said. And if someone crosses my path during that, I won't run. She smiled. Fair enough. We exchanged numbers. I didn't rush anything. No rebound flings. No messy apps. I didn't need validation. I just needed time. Solitude was no longer silence. It was peace. And peace was priceless. Samantha tried texting again once. Just a single line. Do you ever miss me? I stared at the screen. I didn't answer because the truth was, I missed the version of me that loved her. But him, he was gone. And the man standing in his place didn't. Miss Lyers. The final hearing came and went. No drama, no fireworks. She walked in wearing sunglasses indoors, hoping to shield herself from reality. She left with nothing but a cheap purse and a last name she no longer deserved. I walked out with my dignity, my future, and a new understanding. Being a man isn't about fixing broken people. It's about never letting them break you again. They say time heals all wounds. That's not true. Time doesn't heal anything. It just gives you space to build scar tissue over the pain so it doesn't bleed anymore. Healing. That's work. That's conscious. That's bleeding in silence until you learn how to move without wincing. And now, months later, I wasn't wincing anymore. I was walking tall. The divorce papers were signed, sealed, filed, and buried. Her name wasn't just out of my mailbox. It was out of my head. My phone was quiet. My home, mine again. No more emotional landmines tucked between the couch cushions. No more fake apologies. No more lipstick lies on wine glasses I had to pretend not to see. And most importantly, no more wondering if I was crazy. That question used to haunt me. Am I imagining it? Is she just distant? Or is she hiding something? Am I the problem? Turns. Out. No, I wasn't the problem. I was the target. I started writing again. Not a book, not a blog, just pages, thoughts, truths. One day, I wrote something that stuck. Loyalty to the wrong person feels like suicide in slow motion. I looked at those words and felt it in my gut because that's what it was. I wasn't mad at Samantha anymore. I wasn't angry at Chris. I wasn't even furious with the people who saw it coming and kept quiet. I was mad at me for ignoring the gut feeling that whispered, this woman is not safe. But the thing about gut feelings, when you finally start listening to them, they become instincts, and instincts don't lie. One evening, I was walking home from the gym when I passed by a little rooftop bar. The kind Samantha used to say was too loud for her taste. A band was playing some indie cover of a classic soul song. I paused at the door, and there she was, Rachel laughing, holding a glass of white wine, tucked into a group of friends. She saw me, and for the first time since everything exploded, I wanted to walk over. Hey, I said. She smiled. You finally emerged from your fortress. I chuckled. Didn't know I was hiding. You weren't hiding, she said. You were rebuilding. There's a difference. We stood there in the noise, the city breathing around us, and it didn't feel awkward. It didn't feel like rebound territory or unfinished, trauma waiting to bubble up. It felt natural. So, she asked, tilting her head, you sticking around or just passing through? I looked at the empty seat beside her. Depends, I said. That seat taken. She slid her hand over it and tapped twice. Not anymore. That night wasn't the start of a fairy tale. It wasn't fireworks or some movie moment. It was just honest. Easy. Two people talking about life like it wasn't some endless war zone. I didn't tell her everything. Not yet. But I did tell her one thing. I don't ever want to save someone again. I just want to build with someone. She nodded. Then stop picking people who want to burn down what you're building. And I swear right then something in my chest unlocked. If you ask me what I learned from all of this, What advice I give to the guy out there ignoring red flags because he's afraid to be alone? It's this: if you have to shrink to keep someone, it's time to grow without them. Love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It isn't supposed to make you doubt your worth. And anyone who makes you feel like you're too soft for being loyal isn't ready for a real man. Samantha, I haven't seen her in months. Last I heard, she tried launching a YouTube channel. Relationship advice. The irony nearly choked me, but I don't wish her pain. I just hope one day she meets herself in the mirror and sees all the destruction she left behind. As for me, I've stopped looking back because the future, it finally feels like mine. And this time I'm building it with open eyes, firm boundaries, and not a single line in sight. In the ashes of a love that burned too brightly to last, Michael learned that betrayal doesn't just break a heart, it reshapes a soul. Samantha's 2-year deception, unveiled in the glow of Chez Pierre, wasn't just a marriage's end, it was a crucible for his rebirth. The profound truth he uncovered is that loyalty, when misplaced, is a slow poison, eroding the self until only shadows remain. Yet, from the wreckage, he forged a lesson: never shrink to fit someone else's chaos. Love should never demand you doubt your worth or dim your light to keep another's flame alive. Michael's journey teaches us to heed the whispers of instinct, those gut feelings that scream when something's wrong, even when the heart pleads for silence. His advice to those teetering on the edge of red flags is stark. If someone makes you feel small for being steadfast, they're not your haven, they're your hazard. Build boundaries, not cages, and choose partners who construct alongside you, not ones who delight in demolition. The deepest wound wasn't Samantha's lies, but the version of Michael who believed them, and his triumph was reclaiming that man, not with vengeance, but with clarity. Time doesn't heal. It offers space to weave scar tissue over pain, but true healing is deliberate, choosing every day to walk taller, love wiser, and never let a liar redefine your strength. As Michael stands now, his future isn't just his. It's unshackled, a testament to the power of rising from ruins with eyes wide open.